Okay, welcome everybody for another episode of Coming Into Being. I'm trying to send this message. There we go. Your time for being. So spa time for being. So whenever you join in, take a deep breath in and just settle into where you are. And let yourself really come into that place of being. Focusing on your physical environment, your physical identity, meaning your physical body and where you're sitting. So we're just going to take a few moments. We're going to sit right here in the state of being. And coming into your body, noticing your body. So let's start with the top of the head. And really focus the top, the literal top of your head. Notice that. Sometimes I like to get started by putting my hand there, especially if I've been on the computer a lot, for example, to just make that more tangible for myself. And see if you even can get as deep as feeling the hair follicles. Some people can, and you might kind of get a general sense of the hair follicles in the scalp and the skin on the scalp. Like a very dense forest. And just bringing your awareness into that and feeling that. And might, starting at the top of your head and then just noticing. Hi, Catherine. And if you're stopping by, you can pop in and say hello, and I'll just check in on you and maybe do a little work on you, more specific to you throughout the session. So focusing on your scalp, noticing your scalp, noticing the hair of your scalp, the follicles, the skin itself. And that's kind of an interesting piece because you can move it. You can pull on your hair and it will move back and forth. It's not really locked in place, and actually it should be able to pull it back and forth. That's good, real good for the stimulation of the hair and the blood supply and that. Coming down level, let's jump to the eyebrows. Noticing your eyebrows. Hi, Diana. And Hilaria. Hello, Hilaria. Good to see you. So eyebrows. And if you put your awareness on a physical part, like your eyebrows, and suddenly they feel bushier than you know they are, can you kindly work on releasing loss and lag patterns? Okay, well, we'll see. We'll get to that. Well, it's really come into being because that's the bottom line for all of this is coming into being. So as I was saying with your eyebrows, like you might be like, put your awareness on your eyebrows, and the feeling or the imagery that comes up, that's not what your eyebrows look like. So clue number one, you're tapping into an overlay, and when you notice that, it's like, oh, that's not me. Hi, Melinda. And just kind of really come even more into feeling your eyebrows. So as the example, to release that. I just think I just had a little bit of that with more of my grandfather. So frequencies of my grandfather that are there. So if you notice that, any body part, all of a sudden it's like, you feel that, it's like, yeah, that kind of feels bigger than what my ears look like, or my nose, or whatever. Just come in, really pay more attention to that physical part of your body. And then you might start to notice that it like shifts off. So there's your physical body, and there's these other frequencies that start to lift off and shift out, kind of thing. So coming to your head, noticing your whole head. Like kind of the volume, kind of imagine the volume of your head. You know, the space, the volume that your whole head takes up. Now you might get a sense of the weight also of your head. You know, I have no idea how much a head might weigh, but there's a good amount of weight there with all the tissues, all the skull and everything that's in there. Even hair, if you have long hair and thick hair, you cut off your hair and you can feel that lightness, you know, so there's a lot of weight in all of this tissue. And coming down into the neck. Yeah, so stuff with the back of the neck. And if you have tension in an area, it's good to go into that area of tension. So it's going to aggravate the feeling of tension. So it might get a little painful. Do the best you can. Breathe into that, because that's about your awareness coming into that and really actually feeling what's going on there instead of like pulling away from that information. So back of the neck, yeah. And of course, the back of the neck is a kind of a typical spot for those control patterns to show up. And that feel like that causes anger in at least one person. Resistance, anger. So feel that. So use that anger to step out of that control piece. And that's going down the back also. So let's continue on down with this piece and just kind of move down. Let's move down the spine. So the neck. Let's start with the neck again. So specifically the spine, the vertebrae in the neck, the cervical vertebrae. So the back side of the neck. And really feel that. Touch your neck if you need to. You know, feel those vertebrae in there. Feel the muscles on either side. So the vertebrae are going to stick up to some degree on the back side, depending on where they're positioned, and even if they're out of alignment or a little bit off somehow. And so feel free to feel that. And as you feel that, feel where your fingertips are touching to really go into that. And that bringing your awareness there helps to open that up. So that's coming into some release of deeper stuff. So that's good for everybody here. And then take a deep breath in, hold it in the neck, and then move it out. Exhale in all directions. Imagining the breath going out 360 degrees, all directions. That's really kind of helping to open up the neck. So get that energy flowing down out of the head more easily when you open up that neck. And moving down into the shoulders, the top of the shoulders. And yeah, let's stick with the top of the shoulders, because there's a lot that comes into the top of the shoulders for people also. Carrying a lot of weight, carrying a lot of burdens. Other people kind of hanging on to you. So let's just take that all off. Let's just, nope, not right now. Maybe afterwards. This is my time. This is my spa time. This is for me only. So time to move off. Here we go. Yeah. Coming back to the center, to the spine, and moving down the spine. So there's that notch there's that bump, and I think it's the 7th cervical, right? That juncture between the cervical vertebrae and the thoracic vertebrae. And coming down, so we're starting to, that whole section that's between the shoulder blades. Let's do all of that all at once together. Ah, yeah, let's clear that up. So sometimes you might find yourself, you're doing something that you enjoy doing, but you get a lot of tension right there because there's a lot of efforting involved. So, it's interesting because what I'm picking up on that is that part of that efforting is because part of that tension is efforting because you have to effort because there's counter programming to doing what you love to do. So there's something that's going, no, we don't want you to do that kind of thing. So let's just take a deep breath in. And so the breath comes into that area. So let's really focus in on the breath. Take a nice deep breath in, feeling that area of your body. So between the shoulder blades and from one shoulder blade to the next and the spine. So it's the spine, the muscles along the side. And just say, no, this is my body, my spine. I'm taking this area over here. Breathe into that. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Just kind of coming into deeper relaxation in that area. And I noticed, well, when I was doing more of the hands-on energy with the energy work, that there was a lot of learning the techniques and practicing and working on people was done mostly with people on their backs, lying on their backs on the table. And rarely people went and worked on the back. Only if people were asked, well, I've got a back problem, what was that? But you get a lot of stuff going on in the back, and we have a tendency to focus on the front. Well, one thing, we're looking forward. So learn to come bring more of your awareness back, like, just kind of sink back and do that. So breathing into that. So that's you guys are doing good. So that's opening up. So Ilaria, with the lack piece, there's a lot of patterns of lack that come in that area because it connects up with control. So lack is a way that we get controlled. If you're in lack, then somebody can have more dominance over you. Always keep you wanting for more, and so you keep hanging on. So there's a real heavy lack connection there in the back. So as you move that, you shift that out, that will help to work through that. So let's just breathe into that. If you notice anything like lack or control, or already yawned about 15 times. Yes, so much moving out. Yes, right. Get that stuff flowing through and opening that flow. That's really great, Gayla. Oh, so that's really, yeah, already there's a nice layer that's coming off people there. So really good. Still some tension in the middle. Kind of almost like this line going right in. So let's just shift that out. Yeah. Okay, so let's move in. Now we're going to go to the front, because then now there's like this, the grief, a lot of grief that's in more towards the front of the chest. So focus on your breathing for a bit, and focus on all the way around, how your chest is expanding in 360 degrees. It's not going front back, or it's not just going front, whatever. Everything is expanding. That whole torso, upper torso, that rib cage is just expanding in all directions. So let's take a moment to just really notice that. for a bit. And as you take some slower, deeper breaths, just pay attention, almost like you're looking down, and pay attention to, if you find yourself noticing more of like the front, let yourself pay attention to the side. And then as you've noticed the side with a couple breaths, come into the back. There's not much separation, much space between like the rib cage and the lungs and the heart. They're all very close together there. There's the fascia also. You want to take an example of fascia in real life. When you buy a piece of chicken that has the skin on it, pull back the skin, that film that's between the skin and the flesh, that's the fascia. And we have that fascia internally that basically holds all the organs in place. So just kind of becoming aware of that. And the fascia is a very emotional piece. You cannot force the fascia to shift. You have to really work with it gently and just kind of be present and let it shift on its own. So just by coming into that awareness of that fascia, internal fascia for yourself, that's a way to just kind of help release that deeper level. Yeah, so, all right, yeah, there's some pieces. So working on this for everybody around kind of that loss, lack and loss that Ilaria brought up for the group here today. Oh, yeah, lot of crying. So if you start crying, that's fine, because I can feel that very internally there. And that's part of the slowness and probably releasing that for you, Ilaria, is that it's very deep embedded, very deep inside. Because it's like at that point when that started piling up inside, and it was really right in the middle of the chest there, lower, just kind of bearing it to not feel that. So just kind of keep breathing into that. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yeah, very nice. So that's already more open and more relaxed for everybody. Very nice. Let's come back to the back side again, to the spine. So between the shoulder blades. And let's move down. So in the section below the shoulder blades to maybe the bottom of the ribs, more or less, a little bit more. So not all the way, maybe all the way down to the lumbar vertebrae. So about waist level. There we go. It's about waist level. So bottom of shoulder blades to waist level. Yeah, and some of you are going, what? We're so, it's like there's certain sections of our body where we get used to heartbreak feelings. Yeah, okay, good. Got some of that for you too. Good. Yes, we're not. We can. Sometimes we're just not, certain areas of our bodies we don't pay attention to. When we come into that, it's like, oh, okay, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that was there. And it's also because the section we're doing. You might be focusing maybe more on your waist kind of thing, but below shoulder blades to waist, so that kind of twists the mind around a little bit. So that's good. So in that section, the waist is kind of sits basically below the bottom ribs, those floating ribs. And so that's the solar plexus area. Yeah. So part of the loss and the sadness ties into, I'm picking up, I've been yawning so much too. Yeah. Good, 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 good. Is, that can tie up to issues I'm seeing as stuff that we're going to clear out on the pancreas, which is underneath the left. Liver on the right, heart, stomach, pancreas on the left, more or less. Generally speaking. So under those left ribs, bottom ribs there. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a lot coming out of the solar plexus for people. Yay. So a little story for you guys about me. When I went to Sedona, a couple years back, I did the Four Folds Path live with Moss and in person. So my spirit went berserk, and so it's like crap all the in-person IGHs you can. I think I did about 3 in between sessions and stuff, and every single time Moss was going right into the solar plexus, pulling stuff out. I was like, okay. Oh, and that felt better after that. But there's a lot for people in the solar plexus. So breathing into that, breathing in, put your hand right between your ribs down there. And if you want, I'd put a hand on the backside too. A little awkward for the shoulder, and some of you might have a real hard time. And maybe even just your fingertips, that's a little easier on the backside, on the spine. Oh yeah, there's some people back there. So let's remove those frequencies because we don't need to have extra people. As the Laura Day, who is a big intuitive, very well-known intuitive, she says, one body, one person. So we go by that rule. Let's get everybody else out of there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, good job. That's opening up a lot of stuff. Just creating a little more room, Let's come a little bit more into the backside for everybody. Yeah. There we go. Breathe more into that backside. If you're sitting on a chair, just kind of lean back, feel that back into the chair or into the cushion. Become aware of that spot. Yeah, coming into your body that way. Very good. All right, and then we're moving down, just kind of flowing down into the lower abdomen. So keep going down your spine, pressing a little bit, just lightly against that cushion or chair, whatever you have your back against there, pillow. And if you don't have anything, just kind of feeling with your fingers, putting your fingertips on your spine there, and there's a little bit of that curve in the back. And that's normal. You might not have it, but yeah, and just kind of sliding down. So we're slowly moving down. Yeah, there we go. Into the sacrum and the lower spine area. Yep. So removing some more stuff. So now we're kind of getting to that physical identity piece. So there's a lot of stuff in there from, you can get a lot of stuff in there just from interacting with people in physical life. Even if you're just going on Facebook, check yourself afterwards, come into that area. What does that feel like? It might hit you other places, it might hit you other, like in the heart stuff, but noticing that. Separating out. Yeah, really coming. There you go. Just breathing into that. You want to put a hand in between your hip bones. And as you breathe, sort of feel the breath going all the way into there, pushing into there, even as it expands your ribs, also expanding down into that area. Let's see. Wow. Yeah, so there's a bit of stuff in there for people. That kind of gets into relationship stuff too. Yes, easily get entangled in all sorts of situations. Yeah. So start to learn to become more aware, especially when, kind of so easily get up in the head when we're working on computers and stuff, especially, and with all this social distancing, quote unquote, is working on computers. And most of the work people do now is very up here oriented, even they're just not very physical. So it's, if you go out there and start climbing trees and, chopping down wood and stuff, that's going to get you out of your head real fast. So we don't live that way very much anymore, unless we really take the time. So really coming into that lower area. Breathing, slowing down when you're on the computer, for example. Just take a deep breath into yourself. So just like what we're doing now, take a step back, close your eyes if you need to. Come into your torso, focusing all the way through, and you can just kind of move down your torso. Yeah, and this is generating, if you feel a lot of heat generating, I'm noticing that. That's sort of energetic frequency chemistry, as I call it, where there's, it's like this burning off that's happening. So with the breath, noticing the breath pushing, just kind of expanding out in that lower abdomen. And when you have a really relaxed breath, when you can get into really relaxed breath, there's actually a slight movement that happens with the, I'll check your thing, Kayla, in a minute. With the skull, so the head goes like this, and the pelvic rocks in that direction. So when you breathe out, when you exhale, the head kind of goes down. And when you breathe in, the head will go up, and I'm not describing it very well, but the pelvic floor will rock back. And if you really relax and slow yourself really down, and when you're fully relaxed, and you can kind of emphasize it, but it's not a really big movement. It's really just a rocking movement. That helps to loosen up the whole spine and the whole flow of lots of things, like the energetic flow in the body. The blood flow, the flow of the cranial sacral fluid. So there's Qigong practices with that. There's also cranial sacral information on that rhythm you can look up. Kayla, let's see, can you please release the parent-child dynamic in intimate relationships? Whoo, that's a loaded one. Okay, let's see what we could do to just like change that around. Yes. So let's go in. So what's coming up to do is to really change that internal dynamics that we have for ourselves. BG, does this help with circulation? So Yeah, generally speaking, that helps with circulation. When you get into that more relaxed state, your muscles are, your muscles relax up. When your muscles relax, then the blood flow can get through better. The nerves are not so, because that's part of the muscles tightening up. So everything is much more relaxed with, and so yeah, that will help with the circulation. Um, there is a big piece. One thing that's coming to mind with the circulation also is like walking, because there's every time you put your heel down when you walk, that is part of that sending the blood flow back up. So that's why if we sit around a lot on computers, for example, that there's that lack of movement, and with even with the walking, with that flow back up the legs kind of thing. So yeah, that will definitely help the flow. Okay, so um, and what kind of things are, hold on, onto the hips? Ooh, okay. Kayla, I haven't forgotten you. Lots of stuff. So there's different things that connect up with different areas. There's different modalities that look at different the body in different ways. There's a lot of modalities. There's Alexander Lowen, who had his whole thing. There's and there's some other people. I'm not Wilhelm Reich, Alexander Lowen. There's some other people with Alexander Lowen. I can't recall the names, but who really got into this overlay of the physical, the energetic, and the psychological aspects of the person. So there's different models out there. There's the chakra models. The chakra models tends to look at the second chakra is related to relationships. So that can be a starting point, but it might not be the only thing that's there. What I've been noticing for myself in that area is that things that, so that come the seat of the physical identity, and physical level pieces. So like I said at the beginning of the earlier in the call, of when, you might notice when you get on Facebook, all of a sudden you get off and kind of feel like there's a lot of distortions there. So noticing that, because it's that physical level interaction. So you can use these different modalities or these different, paradigms, whatever, but just holding them lightly. It's like, okay, and feeling into that area. What does that feel like? And there's a lot of creative energy, because sexuality, sexual organs, creative energy, those all connect up. So it kind of becomes a seat for that thing, because it's all kind of compacted in that area, as opposed to sexual energy, creative energy, sexual energy coming in the head, because that's not where we have our sexual organs. Even though that comes into play, but the creative center, so that's a strong creative center in there. So start by, just kind of feeling into that area. And what do you notice? What does it feel like? You can really start just simply by describing for yourself. Let's see. Well, it feels like, just throw out a bunch of adjectives for yourself. Does it feel hard? Does it feel soft? How hard does it feel? Does it feel hard like wood? Does it feel hard like steel? Does it feel hard like, like plaster? Does it feel hard like cement? So compare it to tangible things that you have in everyday life. So that you start to get a sense of that thing. Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Kind of, does it have an emotion? Where does that feel like that's coming from? Ask yourself a bunch of questions. Does this feel like past life, or does it feel like family, for example? Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's about just kind of exploring that and noticing what comes up, the feelings that come up with that. Yeah, I've had some interesting experiences of well, that's how I uncovered that I was abducted by aliens. I hold that abduction very lightly, and that was at a time when I did not believe People had stories like that. And I had this thing in my neck and just going into that and just noticing and doing exactly how big is it? How long is it? What area of my neck does it cover? How deep does it go into? And all of a sudden, boom, this image pops up in my mind of being kind of like in sick bay and in a Star Trek kind of thing. And it's like, oh. So that opened a whole can of worms for me. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so lots of stuff can come up. One of the things, people, you might have people floating around and they're like family members. You can have a lot of stuff in those hip areas. So getting back to Kayla, parent-child dynamics. Let's take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, hold it, hold it, hold it, then release it all the way out. There's no left air, no air left. And then breathing back in. So let's come into that relationship with ourselves. This is in connection with the parent-child dynamic in those closer, intimate relationships. Let's come back to that connection with the self, yeah. So might start feeling more kind of coming internally to yourself. And notice what comes up. Was one thing that just is popping up that I'm noticing for in the group is that kind of this might be a little bit of a strong word, but berating yourself. So that's that self-judgment. Judgment of yourself, and it's sort of these roles that we start playing with ourselves, these different aspects of ourselves that don't come into, yeah. So there's recognition of that, and that's okay to be said, and just feel bad about that. Let's just breathe into that. Yeah, there we go. Coming into that deeper connection with self and that deeper self-love. And feeling that love for yourself for a minute. Oh. So part of the parent-child dynamic. So just keep focusing on that internally. It might be more in your chest, but let's see if we can just do the whole torso, and kind of just go up and down if you need to, or move into that area that's kind of seems like the least lit up for yourself as I talk and get into the self-love. So that can pull on the chest, the solar plexus, the lower abdomen. So part of this piece with that dynamic is that the person comes into your space, so to speak, or into that interaction with you. Yeah. A lot of stuff coming up. That's okay. So just kind of breathe into that. And something has gotten triggered in them. So maybe they're coming in as the child. Let's start with that one. Okay. Just because they are in that quote unquote inner child mode and in that piece of that wounding coming through. Okay. Let them be in that space. Just because they're in that space does not mean that you have to be the parent. So coming more into that self-love for yourself, into that alignment for yourself, into holding the space for yourself, and that allowing you to be just in that space of being, which in the immediate might not be the reaction they want, but that will help to actually open them up more. Just being present. Yeah, there's this really opening up for people a lot too. It's really nice. And vice versa. You know, if the other person is coming in as a parent, and because maybe they're taking up that pattern while they saw their parents be a certain way in intimate relationship. Well, that's bringing a lot of sadness for people, a lot of grief, so that's really good. Just kind of breathe into that. It's a really good piece to just kind of clear out here. They saw their parents, so this is just an example. They saw their parents act a certain way, and so it's like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to act in an intimate relationship. That's their piece. Your piece is about coming into that self-love, that self-alignment for yourself. That self-appreciation. Just notice how that happens. So you might notice, yeah, that's clearing out for a lot of people, but just coming into that centeredness for yourself and breathing into that. And that will help also with all those entanglements, coming into that being more strongly, you know, and part of the entanglements is kind of what you learned when you were a kid. You know, so coming more into that being, when you notice these things coming up. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining us. So we're coming, you know, for all this. Oh, and I just saw that second comment, Ilara, instead of getting entangled with my spirit. So when you notice those entanglements, yeah, that's a very nice comment there. Just give yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, as soon as you notice it. If it's later in the day because you're in the middle of work, that's fine. Later in the day, come back to it. Give yourself that time. So let's say it's in the evening. That happened 5 hours ago, it doesn't matter. That happened 5 years ago, it doesn't matter. That happened 20 years, 20 lifetimes, it doesn't matter. When you notice it, come into the moment. Breathe into that. Notice that. Feel into that. And just come back to center, you know. Come back to yourself. Breathe in that self-love to yourself. So very nice. You guys are going into that space very nicely. So there's a lot of stuff that's clearing out. Yeah, Michelle, take some nice deep breaths in, coming into that. Let's release the day. It feels like not a lot, but just, you know, it's always good to release the day, release whatever came before this. Your spirit feels like it's like, okay, I'm here. Time to get into that tub, that bubble bath kind of feeling. That. So very nice. So everybody's in a really, let's just kind of sit here for a little bit. Yeah, another thing, Allie, that comes up in terms of what gets held into the hip areas, okay? Sexuality, that gets into religious paradigms. Wow, that gets into a lot of control. There's a lot of control. I mean, we kind of like to think women, because that's more obvious of how women have gotten controlled, because it's more obvious because men have been in a kind of a dominant position for the most part. But there's been that subtle control and manipulations by women of men, and it's really damaging too. I see my brother, and it's just like, what happened with him? It doesn't look like that on the surface, but on the call when I was with the nephew. So if you were on that call where there's a question about, well, my nephew and electroshock therapy, that's my nephew. So the best we can do for everybody is to come, for anybody and everybody, is to come into that space. And just coming into that deeper connection with ourselves and that self-love. And coming all the way down into that lower abdomen. Well, everybody does the best they can, and then we just need to push to do better and to get beyond these distortions and to get beyond living the way we've been living for just way too long. So good piece there. Good piece for everybody. Sounds like we're all a huge trash can. Yes. Well, yeah, in a way, it's been that's true. That's it's not a pretty analogy, but you're totally right. We are kind of like these big trash cans, and some of us, it's like really held inside. Some of us, it's just all around. Some of us, it's both. Are we training to instill the self-cleaning process into our DNA? Yeah, by just coming into yourself. So that's interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, by as we come more into ourselves, we release all that. What is not us, enslavement. Yes, so it is a type of enslavement, totally. But as we come into ourselves and into our beings more and more and more, I mean, it's really amazing how deep that takes us. My theory, I haven't gotten there yet, but my belief, my sense is that, everything that our spirits have experienced ever since the Big Bang or the separation from oneness is in us. Everything. Hey, think about that for a minute. So speaking of trash cans, yes. Whatever we hold on to that isn't us, that's somebody else, that's, so there's kind of taking that back for a minute. It's like, go back in time, boom, boom, boom. If we go all the way back, it's just like one big pea soup. You can't tell one thing or the other. Consciousness cannot tell itself what it is, because it's just, that's all there is. So there's this big bang that happens. Everything gets, there's this individuation process that happens. So we are all from that source. We're all from that same source, but kind of go boom, and everything separates out into everything that we see, everything that's ever existed, everything that will be. And we're one little piece of that. And that whole process of getting from that big bang to me or you or whatever, it's all there. It's all there. Whether we need to remember it or not is another thing. So everything that comes in, that we take in, that is not this little piece of, if it's part of this little piece, it comes in, it's like, no, that's not this little piece of pure source, it's this little piece. That creates trash in our system. That creates funky things. And we learn to do this because we learn to take things in for ourselves. Depending on the programming, depending on the circumstances, originally a lot of this stuff is learned out of survival, out of like, boom, you just get hit by something. It's like you kind of go into shock and it just kind of stays there because you keep on moving instead of like, if you look at a squirrel, for example, or a rabbit or something, what they often do is that they're being chased and they're running, and then and so that tension, that fight or flight tension builds up in the body, and they're just go. And then when whatever is chasing them disappears or stops because it's bored or whatever, the animal will stop and go shake it off and then go right back to what it was doing before. We don't do that. We're like, freeze, run. And a million years later, we're like, we're still in that mode. So that's a lot of that trash can. So yeah, we're now, if you're here, you're in that process of releasing now that trash. So very good. Okay, deep breath in. Another deep breath in and kind of slowing that down when you take it in, holding it at the top, and then a little bit longer, and then slowly releasing it out all the way to the bottom. Yeah, very good. And let's just kind of come back a little bit more into that place of being a little bit more deeply, and rest into that. Yeah, very nice. Oh. And let's expand that out. Okay, let's just keep expanding. So just keep centered on yourself. And the more you come into that centered place, the more you expand out. So just focus on that center alignment. Breathing into that. We'll open it up just a little wider. I'm just waiting for it to click in for everybody here. There we go. Okay, that was good. Good job, everybody. Yeah. Thank you. That was a good little release for me with my nephew there. It's kind of have a little bit of a hard time, especially with stuff that says it's that void. So my brother's alive. Nobody's alcoholic in the family, but it's that deep void. And my nephew, extra sensitive, and it was a year ago in January, he went in for electroshock therapy because he didn't know what else to do. And I try to help him, but then you can only do so much. Is center alignment what runs along the spine from the ethers to the core? Yeah, so that connects up to, so it's sort of like you've got the physical body, and you can imagine, so at the energetic level, yeah, I kind of talk that way too, because that's my background. So imagine like a line kind of going up into the heavens, so to speak, coming down, coming into you, connecting into you, straight into your core channel, all the way down through to the core of the earth. So that's that core alignment. And so the core channel runs right next to the spine. It's right on top of the spine. So focusing on either. Sometimes it's good to focus on the spine. I just kind of automatically say the core channel, but especially when we need to, let's really kind of get a little bit more into that physical anchoring and do the spine. And sometimes it just needs to get into that energetic alignment more, so both are good. And yes, absolutely. Is that the same as the chakra channel? Well, okay, I'm not sure what you're calling the chakra channel, but the chakras, there's a couple different models. There's one model where there's one at the top of the head that goes up, and one at the tip of the tailbone that goes down. There's another, and the other ones go front back, like forehead, throat, chest, about solar plexus between the hips, both sides, front and back, and then they connect up into that core channel, actually. So if that's what you mean, I'm not sure what you are referring to as chakra channel, but I'm assuming that that's what it is. The one that connects them all. Yeah, so that's the core channel. That's the term I've learned. Yeah, and the other model, there's one woman I studied with, Rosalind Briere, who's a very big name in energy healing. She sees the first as going front at the tip of the tailbone, but front and back, so actually having two aspects to it. Feeling nice and wonderful. Thanks for all this, and really some really helpful insights. Yeah, good. So Friday at 1 p.m., Lionel and I are going to have our little coffee break insights, so we're having a lot of fun with that. I'm going to talk about magic, what magic is. I've had some interesting things that have come up for me around magic, and what it's about, and white magic, black magic, but starting at the highest level, what pure magic is. Next week, we also have our coffee break insights twice a week. And then also, for whoever's interested, I know some of you already signed up for this on here, so thank you. That'll be fun. But just to let other people know, we're going to start doing our Pure Life infusions, and we're going to start doing it on Sunday the 16th. Amazing. All one point when we came fully into ourselves, I even felt tingling. Yes, very good. Yeah, so that's great when it gets tangible like that. That's really cool. And if you're interested in joining it, so weekly infusions, Pure Life infusions, getting you to that level of coherence where you can take that infusion and integrate that so that you really can take in more of that abundance and that fullness of life. So what time is, so that's in the email. We're what came up to do it. So what we do, we just still say, okay, this is the best time. It's like, is we really felt into that, and we did some clearing. It's like, and so weekend, and we kind of, and then looking, just feeling into that and clearing some stuff. And then it got down to like Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time was the time to do it. So it's not always convenient. It's not always convenient for us, but we're really kind of working at it from that level. And what is the most optimal time for us to do it? to bring that. So I hope you can join us for that. And stop by tomorrow. Thank you all for stopping in. It's always fun as usual. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow and next week. So take care, everybody.